Hello and welcome once again to 177 Nations of Tasmania podcast. One of the trends I've noticed in researching for this podcast has been the growing number of Latin Americans who've been settling in Tasmania in the past few years. And for this episode I'm talking with Diana, whose from a country I actually did not expect to encounter, Honduras. And for those who don't know, Honduras is a relatively small country, though a bit bigger than Tasmania, located in Central America. But it does have a few things in common with Tasmania, which you will hear more about. And it's always interesting for me to talk with someone from let's call it a more obscure country, as it's always exciting to uncover new worlds and perspectives, if I can put it that way. Diana also had a very interesting introduction to Tasmania, getting her first job at a bottle shop, which was to her surprise an essential service during the pandemic, and gave her a unique opportunity to learn some surprising things about Tasmania's culture and people, and to come in contact with a wide range of the community. And although English is widely spoken in Honduras, it did not prepare Diana for Tasmanian English. And that's an experience I'm sure a lot of migrants will probably relate to.
Well, my name is Diana. I am currently working as a senior settlement officer in a migrant resource center in Tasmania. I come from Honduras. Honduras is a very small country located exactly in the middle of the whole continent of America. So it's located in Central America. And it's also surrounded by the Caribbean Sea. That makes it very warm and very nice. So I've been here for almost 2 years and 8 months. Mm-hmm. And we came to Tasmania with my husband together. We came because we were looking for an adventure. We wanted to go and look for something different. Mm-hmm. My husband, he used to be a pediatrician in Honduras. He is now doing all the paperwork to become a doctor here. And we came because we had like the whole world of options. But we were looking because of his career, he wanted to go to an English-speaking country. Okay. Where he could improve and he could use all his skills to help others, but he could also have all the advantages of very modern technology and things like that we don't have at home. We have good doctors, we have good things in Honduras, but we don't have that much money as other countries. So we were looking for something like that, and we thought, because he had also been practicing English at home, we thought that we should go to a different English-speaking country. The normal option is US or Canada, but we were really looking for an adventure. Okay. And we don't have almost any information of Australia back home. We just know that there are many spiders, many snakes, and they are deadly, and you might not survive. That's what we know. Okay. Which is not true, let me tell you.
Actually, I've never heard of anyone being poisoned by a spider or a snake in my whole life. I'm sure, I know it happens, but it's definitely, I think it's exaggerated a bit.
I totally agree. It's very exaggerated, but it's hard to believe that it's exaggerated as well, because you see so many things here. Mm-hmm. For example, everything here is kind of like extreme. Even the weather, or is very, very cold, or the sun rays will burn your skin and you will have blisters. Yeah. Everything is really extreme. It's amazingly beautiful, and it has been an amazing opportunity. So, back to the reason why we came to Tasmania. So we were looking at options of countries and of places. I lived in France before. Mm-hmm. So I speak French, and that was kind of like a thought that crossed my mind. But then we don't have that much information, and we don't have that much relation with the language, with the French language. Okay. In Honduras, we speak a lot of English and we see like a lot of sitcoms that are in English and things like that. So it was going to be a lot easier to go to an English-speaking country.
Okay.
So we decided to come here. So we contacted a lawyer. That's a very different story, but it's crazy as well because we just didn't know what to do. We just contacted somebody online who could have been a scammer. It was the best lawyer, but we were just like so scared. At the end of the process, he asked us, where would you like to go? Because with all your qualifications and things like that, you have different options. One of the options was Northern Territory, Darwin, and another option was Tasmania.
Wow, those are very different places.
Exactly. So I asked my husband because I thought, well, maybe he wants to do a little bit more research about the places and see where he would be able to find more opportunities for his specialty and for his profession. And we asked also the lawyer, where did he think that we could be more successful in that sense? And he told us that maybe Tasmania would have more opportunities for both of us.
Okay.
And then my husband also decided Tasmania because we live, as I told you before, like near the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And we have kind of like one season the whole year.
Yeah.
So it's hot and very hot. So he was like, oh, this is our chance. We have the opportunity finally to have like the 4 seasons of the year. Mm-hmm. Little did we know that we were going to have
4 seasons in one day.
Exactly. So that was very crazy.
Yeah, that's probably the thing that people don't quite expect about Tasmania.
Yes. So when I came here, the only thing I could remember was a cartoon called The Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah.
Remember? So in Spanish, it says it describes amazingly well what Tasmania is. Like, it's a land without borders, with the weather that is so crazy. And it says like so many things that are so true. And I was like, oh my God, this is where they get it from.
Right. And did you know anything else about Tasmania before you came here? Like, did you do much research?
Well, it was kind of hard to find information. So we did some research and we went through all the government websites. Mm-hmm. And we saw that, for example, there's a big cheese production, wine production, which was very interesting. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of went that way as well. It was like, sounds like a good place to go when I realized that. So other than that, I think that we saw many things. Like, we saw that there were beautiful landscapes and areas and a lot of nature. But I came from a country that is very, like, it has amazing landscapes as well. So it was like, I don't know. It didn't sound like something that I didn't have before. And it was impressive that it was... So Tasmania is almost half of the size of Honduras. And it has just like half of the population of the capital city of Honduras. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh my God, how in that amount of land can live so little people, like so less?
Well, the irony is that Tasmania is actually the most densely populated state of Australia because the others are so big.
Yeah, then I realized that because we started like looking up information of everywhere. Like, yeah, Australia is just something so different.
Tell me about where you were brought up. Where was it and what kind of environment did you grow up in?
Wow. So I grew up in the capital city of Honduras. And so in Honduras is very interesting because we have like a mixed culture with United States.
Okay. So you mean it's heavily influenced by the US?
Almost like a colony. Yes, it's heavily influenced, like a lot. For example, I studied in a school where I learned most of the time in English. So I had 2 classes in Spanish, and then I had like 6 or 8 in English in one day.
Right.
So most of the time we spoke English. Our teachers were from United States or Canada, and some were Hondurans as well, but they grew up like in the same environment. We celebrate. My traditions are all the U.S. traditions. So I'm aware of Thanksgiving. I'm aware of Halloween, Valentine's Day, everything that has to do with U.S. I know even the Groundhog Day.
Okay.
Even that, like. And we celebrated as well some of the Honduran traditions or festive days. But we didn't celebrate the same as the other schools, because we have some schools that are just in Spanish and some schools that are bilingual. And they celebrated very important dates that were during our holidays, our school holidays. So we don't have like, it's very like mixed. And also I grew up in a house that is close to sports center where we had like the Central American Games at some point, and all sports happen there. And so my sister, for example, she is both of my sisters. I'm really bad at sports, but they're my pride. They do sports for me. I just watch them and I support them, and that's how I do sports.
Yeah, okay. At school or when you were young, did you have any kind of dream or ambition about or idea that what you might do in the future?
I wanted to work in the United Nations when I was in school.
Okay.
And then I worked. And then I needed something else. And then I wanted to go to another country.
Okay.
Just to have an adventure. And I went to France. And when I came back, I wanted to go to a different continent. And here I am.
Yeah. So you've kind of fulfilled your dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I wanted to go. I thought like Africa, but I was not quite sure. And then I thought, there's not a lot of information about Australia. Maybe I should go to Australia. And then we started looking up information with my husband about Australia. And I think everybody at home thought that we were crazy. My grandma was pretty sure that I was crazy. Like she still is. She every time that we talk, she's like, "Oh, but you have already been there for 1 year. When are you coming back?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can't. The borders are closed." Oh yeah, true. So when are you going? When are you coming back? Because you already have spent enough time there. Yeah, she doesn't know. She follows it. I have no idea, but she is the only one. She has no internet. She has no cell phone. She has nothing. And she is the only one that every time that I talk to her, she can tell me what's going on in Queensland.
Yeah, right.
She's like, remember the floods?
Oh, yeah, yep.
We didn't have them here. It was very sunny actually here. She was like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Because I saw that it's raining very heavily." And I was like, "No, it's not." And then I realized that it was very bad in Queensland. But after she told me,
yeah.
Like, "Oh my God, she's following the Queensland news." I don't know how. So that's exactly what happens, and still happening with her all the time. Yeah. And she's the only one. Like my mom, she doesn't really know what's happening in Australia, but my grandma, she knows. And she calls my mom. She's like, "Oh, how's Diana? How's she doing? Do you know that this is happening in Australia?" And my mom is like, "No, that's not true." And my grandma is certain that it's true. And then when we talk, he's like, "Yeah, it's true. It's happening, but not here."
Yeah. And I think sometimes people don't always have a conception of just how big Australia is.
Yes.
And how far away Tasmania is from
everywhere.
Everywhere else.
Yeah, everywhere. I went to the end of the world Crockle Creek.
Cockle Creek. The bottom. Yeah, like at Cockle Creek, isn't it?
So I went there and I sent the location to my family.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was like, immediately, like I got the phone call immediately, like, Diana, I don't think you should be there. I think that is dangerous. You shouldn't be there. I think you should go back home. And I was like, not gonna happen. Everything's fine. Because it looks very scary. But no, it's not. It's not scary. Everybody should go. It's very nice. It's one of the best places that I've been.
In the environment where you grew up, it sounds like you might have had quite a lot of family around living there?
Yeah, so Honduras is a place where we grew up, most of us grew up together, like my family, my neighborhood. So we were all kind of very close friends. And with my family, I grew up mostly with my mom's family. Mm-hmm. So my cousins, my aunt, my grandma. We all have a very close relationship. And with my father's family, every year, so we're quite a few that we have our birthdays in the same month, in September. We're 17. So every year we gather together and we make like one big celebration.
For 17 people?
50, because
50,
remember that 17 of us, but then Melvin, like with like my husband, my other siblings that are not born in September, so they come along to the celebration. So it's about 50. We've been up to 50 people.
But it's for 17 birthdays at one time. Yeah, gotcha.
So yes, we are very close, kind of, and we love to spend time together.
Because it seemed to me that in some of the Latin American countries that families are quite close and they're quite an important part of your life, whereas here families are a little bit more, not quite as connected, I guess.
Yes, so it's very hard to make the decision to leave because you think about your family, you think about your relationship with your family and your friends, and you're all close, like because your friends have been there for you and with you for your whole life as well. So my best friend, she went to the same school as me. So we've been friends for like more than 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so does like the extended family play a role, quite a role in your life?
I think they play an important role in my life. We're always like trying to make decisions together. We're always trying to help each other, and we care a lot about each other as well. Yeah. So I think yes. When you leave school in Honduras, you go straight away to the university.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And then when I left the university and I didn't know what to do, I started studying again French. And then I went to France to teach. So I was a kind of Spanish teacher assistant. And then I came back. I work in development in the mountains of Honduras. And then I came back and continued studying. And then I came here and I keep studying. Okay. I'm still studying.
Yeah, you just made me think of something else, mentioning the mountains, because one thing I read about Honduras, which is a little bit similar with Tasmania, is it's quite a mountainous country.
Yes. Yeah. It has very, very beautiful mountains. And I think we have like, 4 very big valleys, and then some small ones, and then most of the territories mountains.
Yeah, that's what I read, I think. And it's also, even though it's a fairly small country, there's quite a lot of biodiversity and different
regions.
Regions of there's mangroves and there's a lot of forests.
Yes, a lot of forest, and some of that forest is like virgin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's very wild. It hasn't been explored, and so it's quite an important part of the development area because it's very different to grow food in a valley in a mountain that is really, really steep, and is a country that depends a lot on agriculture.
I'd read that also. And the one thing I knew about Honduras that I sort of remembered was that's the term banana republic. I think it was from Honduras because it's where the United Fruit Company produced a lot of bananas.
Yes,
and it was the main part of the economy.
Is the number one product of export, I think, still, and it has been since forever.
Mm-hmm.
And Honduras is where the name comes from, and it's because of that.
And so, I mean, that shows that the fruit production has traditionally been a really big, important part of the economy there and people's livelihood.
All the agriculture is very important because Honduras produces enough food to feed their own population. Unfortunately, we export a lot, but at least I think most of the population knows how to produce their own food, except people from the city that go to the supermarket.
And most, I think, if I remember reading rightly, that most people in Honduras live more in regional, also rural areas, or live on the land rather than the city.
Yes, so that's why agriculture is very important because most of the people, like, even if they have a very small area where they live, they still grow their own things in their own garden and things like that. They always produce.
What were your first impressions when you arrived?
That's an interesting question because my experience, I think, was kind of, when I came, first of all, I didn't understand anything. Like the accent was so strong for me.
Okay.
It was so impressive because in Honduras we speak a lot of English.
Yep.
And we, for example, half of the cinema movies are in English and half in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of interaction with the language. But when I came, it was like just a different planet. It was so strange. And so we came here. We started looking for a place to live. We started looking for a job. I found a job in a bottle shop, and my boss was French. I had some colleagues from different countries. They were like they grew up in Tasmania, but some of them, like, I had a colleague from China that she came here at the same time that I arrived, and the others they had been here for a long time, or they were born here. So it was a very interesting environment because I didn't get to interact with the Australian culture straight away, like all together, you know what I mean? So, and I found a job just 1 week after we arrived. So I didn't have that chance. And then I was always busy at work and trying to settle down and getting all the things done because we came straight from Honduras to Tasmania. So we didn't go to anywhere else. Yeah. And I still don't know any other place of Australia.
Yeah.
So all the stories that we can see in the news or things like that, they're still hard to believe for me. They're still just on the news.
Working at the bottle shop though, but what about the customers? Were they mostly, I would have thought they were mostly locals?
Yes, and I think that was an amazing job to have to start because I didn't understand a word that they said. I had always a colleague with me that could translate whatever they were saying to tell me exactly what they wanted. And it was like, I think that if I would have worked in a different area or field or industry, they would have gotten, like, mad at me for not understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just in a safe place where I could just like say like, what? Sorry, I'll just get someone for you and they will be able to help you.
Yeah, because I would imagine that could be quite a challenging place because you'd get people who would maybe not speak that clearly, and you'd get people with very strong, more your kind of working class accents, which can be, would be really challenging for a foreigner, I think.
Yes, but if you think in a different way, you really don't want to put a fight with the person that is going to provide you alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
So they were really nice with me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's all right. Take your time. Just get someone that will understand. So I think that was the good part of working in a bottle shop. Like everybody was very nice with me for one reason or the other.
I guess also after a while, I mean, there's only so many things that people can ask you for in a bottle shop.
Yes, true. So that was a really good start because my conversation was not so wide and when I started like picking up the accent, I could actually talk to people in like of different topics, and you find so many different kind of customers, and some of them they just talk to you about everything, even of something that happened in their life, so random that you're like, oh, right. Oh, so happy for you. And you just don't know what to say. It's different than, for example, if you work in hospitality.
Yeah.
Because you just order your food, you want your food, nobody's going to talk to you. Maybe they're going to say, hi, how are you? Have you been? Long time no see. Something like that. I don't know. But in the bottle shop, they see you sometimes. You have regular customers. They see you very often.
Yeah.
And they just feel that they know you or you know them, and you just start talking. And it's nice. It's nice. It's a nice way to start, I think.
Yeah, and it's an interesting way to get to have a little bit of an insight into how people here are, I guess.
Yes, it was really important for me to understand the culture, because you see every type of person in a bottle shop, like every type. So, and I got the chance to ask my colleagues, my team members, like, so how did that happen? Or what just happened? Or things like that, or, you know? And I got the chance to ask different things that don't happen in my country. For example, I remember a lady that came and wanted a bottle of champagne for the wake of her grandma or something like that.
Okay.
And I was surprised because that would never happen in my country. You would never toast for that reason or for that person in that case. So that gave me the chance to ask my colleagues, like, oh, so what's the cultural tradition of person that just died? It gave me the opportunity to just ask a little bit more about cultural aspects like that.
What would be the normal custom in Honduras then?
So, for example, if somebody dies in Honduras, you prepare the person or the body, and you keep company to them for 24 to 48 hours without leaving them. So you have to be there the whole 48 hours. Somebody, most of the time, they are around at least 10 people with them. Like all the family, like in my case, for example, would be like all my parents, my sisters, my husband, and the family of my husband. If somebody of my family dies.
Okay.
And then after that, we celebrate a mess. And then while the people are in the wake of the person, of the deceased person, we would have food and coffee and biscuits. That led me to a lot of different questions to my colleagues. So my colleagues were always like keen to answer, and they were always curious if I had another question, because that was like kind of like a fun moment to have at work. So there she comes with another weird question that we will have to think about. Some were grammar questions, some were like cultural questions, and I was always asking them things. The other thing that was interesting for me in a bottle shop was the responsible service of alcohol. Like that doesn't happen in my country.
Okay.
Because you can sell alcohol in every business. So if you have a convenience store or something like that, you just go and purchase a beer or whatever you want to drink.
Yep.
We don't have like specialty stores just to sell alcohol where you need to have a license, and even the people inside the bottle shop needs to have a license to sell alcohol. That was interesting as well, because that was like kind of like the first thing that I did. And when I went and asked for the job, I was like, I want to work here. And they asked me, oh, do you have an RSA? And I was like, what? Yes, do you have an RSA? I don't, but I'm sure that I can get it. And my manager was like, oh, great. Yeah. So after the interview, I was like, so how do I get the RSA? Because I have no idea what that is.
Do Hondurans have a similar relationship to alcohol as Australians? If I can put it that way.
No, we don't. And I want to say that in Latin America, the relationship with alcohol is very different than in Australia in general. But especially in Honduras, is like, that's what I can talk about. We see alcohol in a very different way. Mm-hmm. For example, my sister, she didn't have like not even a glass of wine during the whole lockdown in 2020. And she was literally without leaving her house for like 6 months. So she couldn't go out at all because there was a full lockdown, not full lockdown like in Australia where you can go to work. There was a full lockdown that you cannot leave your house.
Right.
At all, not even for exercise or anything like that.
Not even to go to the shop?
No.
Yeah,
so the shops were open, but you could only order food online, mm-hmm. or you had one day where one member of your family could go to the shop.
Okay, yeah.
So that was pretty normal for us. Like nobody would be surprised about that at home. But here it was different. There was panic buying in the bottle shop.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Like, oh my God, that was so crazy.
I saw pictures of that.
And people were buying pallets of beer for a 3-day lockdown.
Wow.
Like not in this one, but in the previous one in 2020. And I wonder if they drank it and survived, like it's just like, how did they, like, I cannot understand because we don't have that relationship with alcohol, as you call it.
Yep.
Like, it's just not gonna happen. No.
For me, it was the opposite because I only drink when I socialise. I wasn't socialising, so I stopped drinking almost entirely. In 2020, I don't think I had, from this March till, it was probably sometime I didn't drink at all. Exactly.
That's how people handle it at home.
Okay.
Like they just...
It's much more healthy, I think.
Hopefully, yes. And then here is just the opposite. And people were like, oh, thank God that I stocked up on wine because I couldn't have done it without it. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. It was interesting.
Yeah, it would have been an interesting time to work in a bottle shop.
It was. You could see many crazy things. And people were buying like really expensive things as well.
Right.
Like I think people, maybe they thought they were going to die.
It sounds like, it's like end of the world.
Yeah, end of the world panic buying. Like, okay, so I'm going to spend all my saving in this bottle because this is the only thing that I can take with me. So I worked at the bottle shop for about 2 years. Yes. I worked 2 years because I started working there. I was trying to settle down here in Tasmania. My husband was looking for a job in the hospital where he could also get related and to the medical terms and how the health system works and things like that. So the priority was for him to find a spot in the health area. So I was working there in the meantime, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, bottle shops were an essential service.
Yeah, strangely enough.
Yes, so I was very surprised when it was in the top of the list.
I thought it was a bit questionable too, but I have different priorities maybe.
Well, I had that priority. I wanted the bottle shop to be in that part of the list, to be honest. By the time that COVID hit, I was working full-time in the bottle shop, and everybody else was struggling to find a job. So I worked there through almost all the pandemic that hasn't finished yet. And then last year I started working in the Migrant Resource Center.
So how did that job come about?
So I have been trying to get my skills adapted to the Australian context in very weird ways.
Okay.
Because I used to work in community development at home.
Okay.
I used to work with NGOs and helping people, and kind of like what I'm doing now. I'm really passionate about that. And when I came here, I just looked at the opportunities that I might have, and I thought that the best chance to upgrade my skills and do something different was doing something totally different. And I started working training and assessment. Studying. And I started also upgrading my skills as an interpreter in English and Spanish.
Yeah.
So I got that from the University of Melbourne, the RMIT. And I'm finishing my training in TAFE for training and assessment. And I thought that it was going to be useful to find this job, but I was always keen in looking for opportunities on how to work in development, and especially with the migrant community, because I'm always passionate to help, but I also want to help the ones that are around me.
Yeah.
And I want us to have all the opportunities and take advantage of or profit of all the opportunities that Australia has to offer. So I was always following them in different social media. And then a job position came up. And when I read it, I was like, oh, this sounds like a good opportunity. And I gave it to my husband. And my husband was like, oh my God, this is the description of yourself. I think this has your name written all over. I think you should apply. And I was like, yes, I think I should apply as well. And because it's a different system of application here as well, I have no idea how the system is so different here, at least in Tasmania, than in every other country. I think I could only do it because I had support of my husband and of another good friend of mine. She helped me with the interview process. She trained me for the interview. And my husband, he spent a lot of time in the library to get his position at the hospital. He studied the whole application process. And he was always checking my application. He was just checking my resume. And it was we were working together. And then with my friend, we worked together as well. It's just so different. You just need to know that you need to change your mindset if you want to find something.